The royal family isn't just pearls, palaces, and public waves, it's also an emotional maze of loyalty, power, and long held grudges. And this latest incident, it cracked the mask wide open. Picture Windsor Castle, decked out for a major charity event, glittering chandeliers, a sea of designer gowns, and photographers at every turn. But behind the smiles, there was tension so thick you could slice it with a crown. The source? Princess Anne. The target? Queen Camilla's son, Tom Parker Bowles. Now, Tom isn't your usual royal. He's a food critic, a writer, a guy who's known for his wit more than his pedigree. He's Camilla's eldest son from her first marriage, which technically puts him outside the royal bloodline. Still, his proximity to the crown has always been a bit of a gray area. And this time, that gray turned stormy. Anne made it clear Tom wasn't welcome at the event. Not a suggestion, not a polite hint, a full-on royal no. To outsiders, it might sound petty, but inside palace walls, this wasn't about Tom personally. This was Anne drawing a line in the royal sand. See, Anne's always been the one holding tight to tradition. She doesn't do drama, doesn't care for attention. She believes the monarchy only survives when it sticks to its rules no matter how outdated they may seem. Letting Tom in would have meant bending those rules, and Anne doesn't bend. But here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't just about one event or one guy. It was about the monarchy's future, its image, and maybe most of all, the slow-burning tension between Anne and Camilla. Their relationship has always been, let's just say, complicated. It goes way back, tangled in decades of awkward overlaps, unspoken judgments, and probably more cold stares than royal handshakes. To really get it, you have to understand their origin story. Flashback to the 1970s. Anne was dating Andrew Parker Bowles, the same man who would eventually marry Camilla. They were young, rich, and caught in that glittering royal whirlwind. But Anne's relationship with Andrew hit a wall thanks to church rules about marrying Catholics. Enter Camilla. She and Andrew clicked, got married, and not long after, Camilla got tangled up with Charles. A soap opera? Basically. Anne's personal history with Andrew, then watching him end up with Camilla, set the stage for a relationship that never quite warmed up. Add in Camilla's controversial rise to queen after years of being seen as the other woman during Charles and Diana's implosion, and you start to see the layers here. Anne, the loyal soldier, and Camilla, the former outsider who fought her way in. So when Camilla started folding her children into royal life, Tom included, it wasn't just a family decision, it was a statement. Camilla was claiming space, rewriting the narrative. And for someone like Anne, who believes rank must be earned through duty, not proximity, this was a red flag waving right in her face. Tom being excluded wasn't about Tom's personality, it was about what he represented, a blurring of boundaries. For Anne, letting him stand shoulder to shoulder with blood royales would have felt like diluting centuries of structure. And in a family that treats tradition like gospel, that's sacrilege. But not everyone agreed. Camilla was reportedly devastated. This wasn't some distant cousin being uninvited, this was her son, her family. And Anne had made it clear there were still insiders and outsiders even after all these years. Tom Parker Bowles didn't take the rejection quietly. That's just not who he is. While most royal adjacents keep their heads down and follow the silent rulebook, Tom flipped the script. He's always walked the line between being Camilla's son and just a regular guy, and this time he leaned into the latter hard. According to insiders, when he found out about Anne's decision to block him from attending, he didn't send a discreet letter or wait for a call. He fired off a blistering message of his own. No royal polish, no PR filter, just raw frustration. It wasn't about wanting the spotlight. He's been around fame his whole life and never really chased it. But this was about dignity, his and his mother's. Tom reportedly told close friends that the rejection felt like an insult not just to him, but to Camilla's entire family. After everything she had done to become accepted in the royal fold, this felt like a deliberate slap in the face. And the timing? Brutal. Just when the royal family was trying to project unity and strength, this rift split the seams wide open. What stung most for Tom was the hypocrisy he saw in it all. In his eyes, the royal family had already bent the rules in so many ways birthdays, divorces, second marriages, Meghan Markle's entry into the family, Prince Andrew's scandals. The rule book had been edited, redacted, and reinterpreted dozens of times, but somehow, when it came to him, someone who hadn't caused drama, hadn't embarrassed the crown, he was the line that couldn't be crossed? It didn't add up, and he wasn't alone in thinking that. Camilla, usually the picture of restraint, was said to be deeply hurt by the exclusion. Not angry in a vengeful way, but wounded. Because for her, Tom isn't just her son, he's one of the people who supported her through the darkest chapters of her life. Through the years of public scorn, whispers behind her back, and the relentless comparison to Diana, Tom had been her anchor. Watching him be pushed aside like an afterthought was a quiet devastation. Still, Camilla didn't push back publicly. She's been in the royal game long enough to know how quickly things escalate when words are exchanged, but privately, she was shaken. Some insiders said she even considered skipping the event altogether in silent protest. Ultimately, she didn't. She showed up, smiled for the cameras, and played her part. But behind closed doors, she made it known that a line had been crossed. Meanwhile, Princess Anne held firm. She didn't flinch under the pressure. If anything, the backlash seemed to reinforce her decision. To her, this wasn't about Camilla or Tom or any single person. It was about protecting the institution. Once you start softening the edges, inviting in non-royals, blending families, rewriting tradition, where does it stop? In Anne's world, the crown is sacred. You don't dilute it to avoid hurt feelings. This all hit during a moment when the monarchy was already under pressure. Public opinion was shifting, younger generations were questioning the relevance of the royal family, and every misstep was amplified tenfold by the media. Anne believed that now, more than ever, the family needed to hold its ground, and that meant making hard calls, even if they caused personal pain, even if they made her the villain of the story. But beneath the firm stances and carefully curated statements, the real story was about two women, Camilla and Anne, trying to protect what they loved, even if they couldn't agree on what that was. And caught in the middle, a son who never asked for a crown but refused to be treated like a ghost. Years of royal history, whispers, and glances finally came to a head in one quiet moment that spoke louder than any official statement. At a small gathering days after the Windsor event, Princess Anne and Queen Camilla were seen together for the first time since the tension spilled into public view. The atmosphere was thick. No smiles, no warm greetings, just a cold, cautious air between two women who'd spent decades walking different paths to the same crown. To the public, they're both pillars of royalty, but in truth, they couldn't be more different. Anne was born into duty. Her entire life has been defined by expectations, structure, and the belief that her role is to serve, not to shine. Camilla, on the other hand, had to claw her way in. She wasn't handed acceptance, she earned it. Slowly, painfully, and with the constant reminder that she'd never fully escape the shadow of the past. What made this moment feel different was how visible it had become. Royal rifts aren't supposed to reach the surface. They're meant to stay buried under protocol, silence, and tight smiles. But this time, something had cracked. People were talking. The media didn't miss a beat, and the public, already divided on the role of the monarchy, saw the tension as a symbol of deeper fractures. Behind palace doors, conversations turned serious. King Charles, always the reluctant referee in family matters, found himself in the middle once again. He understood Anne's commitment to tradition. She'd been his closest sibling, the one who never wavered in her support for the crown, but he also understood Camilla's heartbreak. She'd stood by him through the storm, helped rehabilitate his image, and now, as queen, just wanted her family to feel welcome. He didn't take sides, he never does, but those close to him say he's begun rethinking how much of the old system can survive in today's world, because the truth is, the monarchy isn't just fighting internal battles, it's fighting for relevance. And stories like this one of exclusion and tension don't help. Tom, for his part, didn't fade quietly. He made a rare public appearance just a week after the drama, attending a book event in London. When asked about the situation, he didn't lash out or name names. Instead, he offered a carefully worded nod to the storm. "Families are complicated," he said, "even royal ones." The crowd laughed. but behind the humor was a clear message. He wasn't going to be silent, but he also wasn't going to play the victim. The event drew even more attention than usual, and suddenly, Tom wasn't just a food critic anymore. He was the man who stood at the edge of the royal inner circle and pushed back when they tried to draw the curtain. It earned him a wave of public sympathy. People saw him not as an outsider, but as someone brave enough to call out an outdated system without burning it down. And maybe that's what this whole episode was really about. Not rules versus rebellion, not Anne versus Camilla, but the quiet, growing question of how much longer the old ways can hold. As the world changes, the monarchy has to choose. Hold the line or evolve, stand firm or adapt. And in that tension lies its future. Princess Anne isn't likely to change. Her loyalty is carved in stone. Camilla won't back down either. She spent too long trying to belong. And Tom? He's not going anywhere. Whether the palace doors open or stay shut, he's found his voice. And sometimes one honest voice is all it takes to shake a legacy.